Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Manchester United losing Leny Yoro to injury for 2 months. We'll talk about the Canadian women national team reaching the final eight despite the 6-point deduction. We'll discuss the best players. We'll rank the best players under the age of 21. And we'll discuss how big of a blow it is for Barcelona. Not that realistically they're not in the Nico Williams race anymore to sign him for this upcoming following season. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show where I'll be giving you my thoughts on some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Same segment as always. Before we start off, I'd like to ask that y'all like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show, so to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We have to start off with Manchester United losing Leny Yoro to injury for 2 months. Big loss for Manchester United. Big loss for Manchester United. This is not just Leny Yoro that's out actually. It was announced also that Rasmus Højlund, he'll be out. It was also announced that Rasmus Højlund will also be out for a few weeks with I believe it was 6 weeks with the hamstring injury. Keep in mind, this is a Manchester United team that has gone through hell when it came through the injuries that they had to deal with last year. I mean, losing center backs left and right, losing key players all over the park, being one of the most injury-riddled teams in the Premier League, and it massively hindered their chances last season to really compete. It had a lot to do with their demoralizing season. And Erik ten Hag, he's able to survive despite that horrible season, and now he's going to be put on immediate in the hot seat. And then in preseason, the same fate continues. He's losing his new center back that's came in. This is Leny Yoro, who's gonna have a big impact in the fact that United are already pretty thin at that center back position. They currently still have Harry Maguire there, who'll probably be the guy that's now gonna be relied upon again, playing alongside Lissandro. And this is a Harry Maguire that Erik ten Hag wanted to ship out not that long ago, and he had to come in last season, and he was an important factor of last season. And even there was games that he was out as well, and they had to go with Casemiro in the back, with Johnny Evans, who wasn't even fully healthy in certain games, just playing it for the love of the badge that he had for Manchester United. And yeah, it's disappointing because Yoro, being that a youngster coming in, was supposed to, kind of revitalize, bring a new element. He was going to be the Man United starting center back right away, with the fact that you don't pay 60+ million for a guy like him with the defense like Manchester United, for him to be on the bench. There was no easing his way through. He was a guy that came in that can immediately change stuff in the back line. And, this is not some sort of preseason injury. This is a 2 to 3 months. This is a metatarsal injury, which is really is disastrous. It's disastrous to say the least. I mean, you saw him wearing on crutches and wearing a protective boot after the injury that he suffered against Arsenal. A fractured metatarsal, that's a big blow, and that's an injury that could affect him even when he comes back. It's something he has to ease himself back into, because the metatarsals, they happen to be tricky injuries. And it's just unfortunate that this came during a preseason friendly, during a game that has no implications for Manchester United. Obviously, it's still necessary to play these players in preseason. You want to get them up to speed. You want to get, all that, you want to get the team ready, all that. So it's not like it's an unnecessary game, but it was a game that really didn't matter at all. So it's just, when you lose guys in preseason, or you lose guys in friendlies, like in international competition wise. It's just so demoralizing. It's so heartbreaking. And for a guy like Leny Yoro, this is really his first move at a big club like Manchester United. He's coming in, his first big club that he's playing for. Uh, Obviously excited, getting ready for his debut, and then he comes in and then immediately gets injured, and he's having to miss 2 months, and now his debut is gonna come sort of in the middle of the season, or not in the middle of the season, but like, you know, not at the beginning like normally. That's that's you know that's really frustrating for Manchester United, and it's funny because it's not funny actually. That's a bad word to use, but it's disastrous because wow, United, they just can't catch a break. When it comes to these injuries, even we're talking about Leny Yoro. That's the big one because of how thin they are at center back. But with Martial gone, there's not that much depth, in that striker position. And Rasmus Højlund, he's expected to lead the line for Manchester United game in, game out. Now his injury is not as severe, with him being out for about 6 weeks, which gets him back, give or take, the 6 weeks goes well, in the middle of September. Manchester United's opening fixture in the Premier League is August 24th. So realistically, you're looking at the calendar, you'll probably get him back September 14th-ish, 14th, 21st, going up against Southampton, Crystal Palace. Ideally, you want him back for Tottenham when you take them on the 29th of September. You'd want him back for that game against Liverpool on September 1st, but the timelines don't really add up. That's a month from now. It is a month from now, and the timeline won't add up. And again, hamstrings are also another tricky injury with these muscular injuries. So it's really, it's really bad losses, and I like to see how Man United cope with it. I believe in terms of Leny Yoro, I think Maguire is probably gonna come in. Now Lisandro Martinez, he's still in vacation, post Copa America and all that. But I definitely think he's gonna be straight into the lineup as that center half, as that important center half, playing next to. It was supposed to be playing next to Yoro. Now I think it's gonna be Maguire, and it's funny because there was a lot of there's still some talk about Lindelof being on his way out of United. I think with this injury now, I think it's important that United need to keep him because of Leny Yoro suffering an injury, and he's gonna be pretty vital for the start of the season because he's gonna provide that center back steps. He's gonna be that third guy behind Maguire and Lisandro. So yeah, it's gonna be important that they're able to keep on Lindelof. Now, the front three thing is tricky. Is tricky in that no Rasmus Højlund, and apart from Rasmus Højlund, they don't really have that sort of player that plays up top. They don't have that sort of player that has that sort of comfort playing up top. Obviously Rashford, he's had his false nine moments up there, but that's a very, very tricky situation. I don't see what's Man United answer there for the beginning of the season. That will be really, really interesting to see how Erik ten Hag, whether he plays sort of like a front three with Rashford. It seems like Ahmad, he's been starting these preseason games. He's a dude with some real technical ability, being able to play in tight spaces. Maybe Rashford, him, and then you look at potentially someone like, Anthony or Anthony or even a Mount or something playing in the front three, interchanging, having some sort of fluid system, because they just don't have that number 9. They don't have that number 9. And Jadon Sancho, he had a really good end to last season with Dortmund, being part of a team to reach the final, and he's been part of preseason and all that. But is this a Jadon Sancho that's gonna get is he gonna get out of that doghouse? Is he a sort of player that Ten Hag, is he going to be willing to trust again? Has their relationship coincide? In that friendly against Betis, it was Diallo, Sancho, and Rashford. I think ideally, playing Diallo, Rashford, and Sancho could be really smooth. Garnacho, him coming in, he'll have a say in it. I think Garnacho gives you more verticality than Diallo, but I think on the ball, in terms of ability in tight spaces and all that, I think Diallo's better. I really think Diallo, this is the sort of year that he can really break through, because he's a player with some real talent, real ability. He's been on loan for a few seasons now, but in terms of being able to play in tight spaces, then he has that sort of ability, and I hope that he gets more starts this season, and he gets to have a lot of minutes this season, because I think he has a higher ceiling than Alejandro Garnacho. Now, Garnacho gives you verticality, he has pace, he also has ability, but not to the ability of Diallo. I think when you just talk technically, I think Diallo is better. When you take advantage of athleticism and verticality and all that, then Garnacho gives you more. But I think you always want to go with the guys that has just more quality on the ball, because those are the sort of players that at the end of the day, they always prove to end up being better in the long run, like someone who is vertical, he can make that difference, and coming in off the bench, or like one game he has a game where he completely pops. But someone who has that real sort of technical ability, those are the players that tend to last more. Those are the players that managers go in, game out. Those are the players that have more impact game in, game out. So, yeah. It's really a devastating sort of start to United's preseason, losing 2 players already, 2 important players, 2 players that were going to be in that first 11 for the start of the season. Just absolutely disappointing. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll discuss the Canadian women national team reaching the final 8 despite their 6-point deduction.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows where 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed Manchester United losing Leny Yoro to injury for 2 months. We move on to discuss the Canadian women national team reaching the final 8 despite 6-point deduction because of the crazy drone situation, the cheating drone scandal. Just to quickly recap what happened. Just to give you a real quick summary of what happened. It was caught before the opening game. They were caught. Canadian women's national team staff members had control over a drone that was recording the New Zealand team training, and then and those staff members were suspended. The Netherlands reported, or the New Zealand Federation reported it. Canadian Soccer Federation did a report on it. Even the Canadian Olympic Committee or the Canadian Soccer Federation investigated it. Even the Canadian Olympic Committee as a whole did an investigation of themselves. At first, it was deemed that Beth Priestman, the head coach of Canada, didn't have anything to do with it, so they sent the two staffers home. And then for the first game, Beth Priestman voluntarily walked away. Did not coach the game as a sign of sportsmanship or whatever. And then after the game, there was even more reports saying Priestman it was found that Beth Priestman did have know what was going on. She was eventually sent home, suspended for the entire tournament, and Canada actually ended up winning that game. Then a whole bunch of reports that started coming out here and there saying the man is also involved in doing things like this. You had Herdeman having to come out and make his case, saying he had no knowledge of this such thing going on. There was a lot of reports coming out over the Canadian Soccer Organization, blah 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 blah. Became a huge firestorm, and but Canada, despite this, they won their first game, and they did pull off the stunning upset over the host nation, France, to start off the tournament. 2 wins out of 2 with 6 points. Then it was decided by the, I believe it was some interdisciplinary, I don't know if it was the IOC or FIFA, but it was decided by some interdisciplinary court that Canada would be deducted 6 points, which left them on 0 points after 2 games, despite getting the perfect 6 points from winning those 2 games. But they finished out. But despite them being in that situation where they deducted 6 points, they were still able to get out of the group by beating Colombia in the final game, which put them on 3 points, and it was actually enough to push them into second place because they had a superior goal differential over Colombia, who also were only able to manage 3 points. France won the group, and honestly, is usually when teams are deducted, when I first saw the report, I was like, okay, Canada, this is gonna be hard for them to get through. But they can still get through as a third place team. But the fact that they got through over a second place team was astounding to me. But the more and more I think about it now, when I saw that they were going to get 6 point deduction, I assumed that the other teams will get the 3 points for that game. What happened was this when Canada played France or Canada played New Zealand, Canada won those 2 games, but France and New Zealand, they weren't awarded anything. It was just Canada. They didn't get their 3 points. The other team still remained getting no points out of the match. Usually when something like this happens and it's ruled a forfeit or whatever, the other team will get the 3 points. This wasn't really a forfeit. It was a point deduction. I just assumed that's what would happen. So that did end up helping Canada at the end, and it got them through. Now we could talk about a lot of this, a lot of that, a lot of this, a lot of that. We'll get to all the nasty side of all this, all the spirit of this, but I would say amongst this Canadian women's team, there's a real discipline, there's a real spirit, there's a real winning mentality, because this is a team, despite all the noise going on, they went perfect 3 for 3 in the group stages. They moved on at second place with only 3 points, but they won their 3 games. Technically they're on 3 points, but they're really on 9 when you look at, they went perfect. They beat some good teams. Colombia is a decent team. France is really, really good in the fact that they're playing at home, coached by a tactical master tactician and Hervé Renard. And then they took on a New Zealand. They beat a New Zealand team who are not the worst team in the world. Very impressive run by them. With all the noise surrounding the team, the coach leaving in the tournament, all the noise surrounding them, investigations happening left and right, so much noise, and despite all that, to put your head down and then being handed a 6 point deduction. Imagine you win 2 games, you're flying high 6 points, and then you get handed a 6 point deduction. The emotional deterioration there, to have to I don't know if that's a word, but the emotional heartache there to win your first 2 games in the fashion that they did it, getting that last minute, ultra exciting, ultra amazing moment against France, to beat the home nation at their Olympics, to get 6 points, and then to immediately that following game, day, being told that you have deducted 6 points, and now you have to go into that Colombia game fighting for your chance to save yourself in this tournament, and to still respond, to still turn around mentally, shift the focus, and do whatever they'll do. I think they almost used that as even more momentum, and something that pushed them, and something that make them deadly in this tournament, going on, that real spirit and cohesion amongst this team. By the way, this is a Canadian women's national team that are the defending Olympic champions. This is a team with some pedigree. There's some Olympic gold medalists here. So there's a real belief. There's a real talent, and yeah. By the way, they did try to appeal that 6-point deduction. That did not go through. They tried to appeal that, I believe, yesterday or today before the game. It didn't go through, but they were still able to overcome it. And it was Vanessa Giles who was able to get the goal, the ultra important goal in the 61st minute. It was a great header off of Jessie Fleming free kick in the 61st minute to win it, to win the game. And now the defending Olympic champions will take on Germany, mighty Germany, the number 4th ranked team in the world. They'll take this on in the quarterfinals. It's in Marseille, and it'll be a great game. Giles speaking about it, saying, a lot has been taken away from us as players that have nothing to do with any of the actions that we've been talking about. The one thing in our grasp is the pitch. That's something they can't take away from us. As much as they tried, sticking together and knowing what we can control, and if we go on to believe that, the world's our oyster. That's the real philosophy. That's the real mindset that really builds championship teams, and that really builds teams with mental resilience. And it's clear, to go through what this women's team has to go through requires mental resilience. Now, we can look big picture at this situation and say, wow, yeah, chances are based on the reports, this is a systemic issue among Canada soccer, and we can look at it from that perspective. But that's something I think it's fair to do another day, in the days ahead, in the weeks ahead, when we really want to go full picture on the Canadian soccer team setup, not just women but also men, because there's real issues with that organization, with that federation, and this is just another thing to the list, right? But I don't think right now, today is the right day to talk about those issues, because I think today is the right day to praise the women's team for what they were able to accomplish. Because let's be for real, it's not the players that are going to the coaches and saying, hey guys, why don't y'all go drone and record the other team so we could get a leg up on them? It's not the players that are doing that. In fact, the players probably had no idea it's even going on. I could be wrong, obviously, I don't know. But what I am very confident in saying is I know that this is not the ideas of the players. This is something that came from a coaching staff or even up above, or something that they developed, that sort of, idea or whatever. But it's not the players. And what the players have done has been absolutely brilliant. What they were able to accomplish to get out of the group is absolutely brilliant. And I think they're a deadly team going future into this tournament, just based on everything I've spoke about. So yeah, short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll rank the best soccer players under the age of 21.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed the Canadian women's team reaching the final despite the 6-point deduction that they suffered. We move on to discuss the best soccer players under the age of 21. This is something I know is going to get controversial regarding my views on this one certain player that happens to be the media darling for everybody in the world. I think you know who I'm talking about. But let's do the ranking. I don't know. Should I go from 5 to 1 or should I go from 4 to? Should I go from? Okay. First of all, I'm gonna name some of these sort of players that we need to see more of before I want to put them in here. I'm talking about the likes of Endrick, Arde Guler, those two specifically. Endrick and Arde Guler, those are players, obviously with some real quality, real ability, all that, but just need to see more. Just need to see more, quite frankly, in terms of, need to watch them play more. Arde Guler, he had a very good Euros, but hasn't played much for Real Madrid. Endrick, hasn't played a single minute in European football. So I'm just going to leave those two out of the talk for now. I will go with number 5, and I'm going to go, this is actually okay. I'm going to go with, let's see. I'm going to go, this is tricky. 5 and 4 is tricky. I will say for now, I'll say Florian Wirtz number 5. Florian Wirtz, player, real quality, real ability. Can do a lot of things for the team. Can play a lot of sort of different positions. Can play, he has the ability to play deeper in the midfield. He plays more, especially since that ACL injury is more in the attacking midfield. He can play on the wings. He's very he provides that vertical element. He can make runs in behind. He has the pace. He can run past players with the ball. He has real ability on the ball. He has that goal-scoring ick to him too. He has a great long shot. He can find a nice pocket of spaces to get the ball in the back of the net, to be on the end of balls and get the ball in the back of the net. He can control the tempo of the game. He can create for others. He can create for himself. He has a lot to him. He was the catalyst of a team, the best player on a team that had one of the best seasons in the history of football. Going undefeated in the Bundesliga, winning the DFL Cup, and getting to the final of the Europa League, which was the only game in all competitions that they lost in all season. He was the main guy, the catalyst of that, running that show in the midfield alongside obviously Granit Xhaka, who also had a brilliant season. But he just real ability, and he can do a lot of everything. And there's not really holes in his game. I wanted him to put him at 4. I kept Florian Wirtz at 5, but the one thing that made me want to go over this player that I have at 4 is the fact that I think this guy, Florian Wirtz, has the more of ability to get a goal than number 4. I think he has more of attacking intent in terms of getting the ball in the back of the net. Now that's Florian Wirtz, and the person I have number 4 that I was saying is not as good in terms of getting a goal is Pedri. Pedri is a player with such quality, and yes, he's had that he's had a dip since that, magical year that he had, that first year where he was overplayed, playing in the Olympics, European Championships, a ridiculous amount of games for Barcelona at age 17. He's had a little bit of a dip in form with injuries and all that, but when he's available, he's still a brilliant player. Number one, he can make any pass on the pitch. I'm talking short range passes, medium range passes, long reach passes. His passing range is endless. He can hit any ball. He has that sort of ability. He's also comfortable on the ball. He doesn't look flustered. He gets the ball in the midfield in a tight space. He is very comfortable in being able to get out of there and make the play to open up space for his teammates. Just real good ability on the ball. Great passing range, and he's a prototypical Spanish midfielder. You have him in there, you're going to be able to dominate the ball because he's not going to lose the ball. He's not going to give it away cheaply. He's going to keep it moving. He's either going to keep it moving and keep the possession with the team, or he's going to be able to make the play to find someone in behind to create an amazing goal scoring opportunity. He's just real quality, real talent. He'll never lose the ball. Just so good on the ball, so good in tight spaces. He's just quality, typical Spanish quality. The thing that is my little weakness about him is sometimes he gets the ball. Sometimes he should get on the half turn, go and take on a player, get past them, because he has the ability. He has the ability to take players on. He has that sort of ability. He's really good on the ball. He doesn't have the pace like some of these, like Florian Wirtz or some of these other players that I'm going to mention, but he does have that sort of ability to take players on, beat a man and take a strike. I don't see Pedri doing that. He lacks that a little bit of a attacking intent. He's very good at controlling possession and making passes and all that, but he never makes those runs into the box and tries to get on the end of a ball or gets the ball in space and takes someone on and take a strike. He's always trying to move the ball. Sometimes I wish he had a little bit more of a want to do it by myself sort of mentality, because there's a lot of times that he gets the ball and people don't even fear his ability to actually take the shot on, and they kind of give him space. They kind of give him space that they wouldn't give space to a guy like Dani Olmo, who we know, once he gets the ball in midfield, if you let him, if you give him the space to, get in a goal-scoring position, he'll take advantage of that. I think defenders, they look at Pedri and they're not really worried about that. I think if he has a little bit, and it's a mentality thing, obviously. If he just has that a little bit more of a I'll be willing to do it myself sort of mentality, I think that can make him even more deadly. So I have him number 4. I think he's better than the player I have at number 3, but he hasn't been. It's the injuries that are not why I don't have him ahead of this guy. But I think if he gets really fit, I'd have Pedri number 3 and this guy at number 4. But right now at number 3 is Jude Bellingham. Brilliant season. Look, he has ability. He's good on the ball. He's very good for his age, really experienced, really mature in certain aspects. Plays ahead of his age, was an important factor of a team that won the Champions League. He can drive past players. He has quality. He's good on the ball. All that. He can make runs into the box and really be a threat to score goals. He can get on the end of things. He can make spectacular plays like the bicycle kick. He has that clutch factor coming up big in late moments. He saw scoring winners in El Clasico, scoring that game-tying goal against Slovakia that saved them in the round of 16. He has that, sort of ability. I just think when the rest of these guys, when it comes to a pure technical point of view, I don't think he's at the level at these other 4 guys that I have on this list with him. But I think he has that a little bit more of the intangible factor to him, which really puts him into this list. I think he's really experienced for a guy that's young. He plays like a guy with experience, but he also has enough quality to put himself in this conversation. And this is a player with some real talent. Now, the thing with the negatives I have about him is, number one, in the second half of the season, his Real Madrid production did fall off. Now, he had a ridiculous amount of goals to start off his campaign, and to expect that going in that second, to expect that for throughout the season maybe was a little bit unfair. But But I thought there was a lot of performances in which he wasn't really at it, and there'll be times that he goes down and he doesn't get up right away and get back and defend or any of that, and instead he gets down and starts whinging and whining, kind of like Bruno Fernandes, and I'm just like, it really rubbed me the wrong way. We saw that a lot at the Euros. I thought in the Euros in general, I thought he was a no-show the entire Euros. I thought he was really bad the whole Euros. He had one moment of magic against Slovakia, and I thought that kind of papered over some of the cracks because I thought he was really bad at the Euros. I don't think he had any of the impact that we saw him have at that first half of the season for Real Madrid. And in general, since around January, he hasn't been, the drop-off has been evident. The drop-off has been evident. Even down the stretch in their run when they got to the Champions League final, it wasn't Jude Bellingham, carrying them on their back or anything of that sort of element. It's nowhere near that, So I just want to keep things in perspective. Number 2, I have Lamine Yamal. 17 years old, 16 years old throughout the majority of the European Championship, doing what he was doing. Oh my goodness. So vertical, so comfortable on the ball, so good in tight spaces, has pace. I mean, he's just the perfect winger, has quality. He can cross a ball, he has vision, he can make a pass, he has ability to finish. He has that long range sort of quality. He has a great mentality. What's not to love about Lamine Yamal? Absolutely brilliant player. Just real quality. And he's phenomenal. And for 17, he's 4 years younger than the rest of the guys on these lists. Pedri, Fertz, Jude Bellingham, and the guy I have number 1, they're all 21 years old. This is a guy that's 17. So for the fact that he's already number 2 is unbelievable. And if it's based on transfer value, he's number 1 because of his age, being 4 years younger than the rest of the guys on this list. But yeah, what he has the intangibles to be able to do this at 16 years old. Because the entire European Championship, he was 16 years old besides the final. It's a 16-year-old doing what he was doing. Simply sensational, and I think the sky is really the limit for him. And then number 1, Jamal Musiala. In my opinion, when it comes to pure ability in tight spaces, pure dribbling ability in tight spaces, pure technical ability in tight spaces to retain the ball, he might be the best player I've seen. Besides obviously the likes of like a Messi and a Neymar, or a Maradona or something like that. Some of those crazy, ridiculous dribblers. But in terms of especially that at this age and all that, oh my goodness, his ability to dribble in tight spaces is absolutely sensational. I mean, it's just incredible, the things that he does, the way he embarrasses defenders, the way he makes people nightmares. It's like he's moving the ball with his eyes, and that he's telling the ball where to move. It doesn't, it's literally like he's controlling it with his hands. There's players that can, he controls the ball with his feet better than most people could control a ball with their hands. That's just how, every touch that he makes, it goes exactly where he wants it to be. He does not lose the ball. He's just so incredible when there's no time, when their space is compressed. And now what you've seen over this past few months or so is his ability also to his end product getting much better, getting the goals, getting the assists, really being a huge factor, being the best player on Germany this summer, really taking that next level. That's what we wanted to see. That's what really was going to take it to the next level, getting that end product right. And he has got that end product right. He's turning into a great finisher as well. Great ability on the ball. You like to see him be a little bit better in terms of creativity when it comes to his passing, making space for other teammates, really being deadly passing. Because with the combination of his being ability, if he can develop himself a little bit more of a passer, again, this is sort of player, the sky's the limit. For me, he has to be the best player, because when you're watching a game, out of all these guys, there's no one that can dominate a game more than Jamal Musiala. I mean, Jamal Musiala, when he's on his A game, he is literally the star of the show at all times. That's how brilliant he is. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll discuss Barcelona and how big of a blow is the fact that they can't sign Nico Williams.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
How big of a blow is it for Barcelona now that they won't, or maybe we should say can't, sign Nico Williams, because we were all living in this sort of fantasy that it was a guarantee Williams is going to be a Barcelona player. You just have to pair him with Lamine Yamal, or look at what he's doing for Spain. And Barcelona over the past, throughout their history, but especially over the past, 10, 15 years, they want a player. He's Spanish. He's a star of the Spanish national team. He had a great European Championship or World Cup. Clubs like Barcelona, they're able to get it done. Not clubs like Barcelona, they get it done. They'll be able to get it done. We live in a sort of different world in that, Barcelona are, struggling financially, look, I will say this about Joan Laporta. Joan Laporta, man, I understand you want to be positive and you want to sell to the fans that everything is fine and all that, but don't lie to the fans. Don't lie to the fans. Xavi got fired for telling the truth, because that's the right thing to do. Tell the truth because the fans deserve the truth. Xavi got fired for telling the truth about the situation that Barcelona find themselves in, while Joan Laporta not only fired him for telling the truth, but is out here selling these sort of, nothing is fine. We can afford these players. We can afford Williams' release clause. Everything is fine. We're not going through financial hardship, all that. Just tell the truth. The fans deserve the truth. The Barcelona fans deserve the truth. Especially the fans that pay the tickets to go in, game out, that have put their blood, sweat, and tears for the football club, that will die for that football club. They deserve to know the truth. Stop selling them this sort of vision that is simply not that can't be executed. They cannot be executed. I saw a quote a few weeks ago saying Yamal's release clause is affordable. Now it's saying Lamine Yamal can't join Barcelona because of Barcelona's uncertainty regarding his registration. I mean, how crazy is that? How crazy is that? It's incredible. It really is. It's incredible. And in years in the past, Nico Williams would have been a Barcelona player. No problems. No second questions asked. It would have been easy. They would have done. Boom. He would have probably been done his medical by now, right after the European Championship. But it's a different time we find ourselves in, and it's a disappointing because getting Nico Williams with Lamine Yamal, him being a Spanish player, is just perfect. Paired alongside another Spanish winger, if you look at Barcelona teams in the past, they have dominated. They dominate the Spanish national team. Even with the greatness of Real Madrid, the 2010 World Cup, that was literally Barcelona in red. That was literally a Barcelona team wearing the red jersey. I mean, you had the likes of Fabregas, Xavi, Iniesta, Puyol, Piqué, Victor Valdez. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I'm missing someone. Busquets. No, actually, I have no idea. Was Busquets part of the team that won the World Cup in 2010? I don't know. Yes, he was. What am I saying? Yeah, he was part of that team. Yeah. Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, Puyol, Fabregas, PK, Valdez. That's what Barcelona. They dominated the Spanish national team. Where has that gone now? Where is that anymore? Okay, Valdez was actually on the bench for Casillas, but part of the roster, obviously. But what is that? Pedro was the other one that I was missing. Pedro. So that was 7 starters because Valdez didn't start. It was PK, obviously. But Pedro, David Villa. I don't know if David Villa in 2010 was he playing for Barcelona at that time, or was he at Atletico? No, he was definitely playing at Barcelona. Actually, he was that following season was his first season at Barcelona. But that's 8 players, in the starting 11 that was Barcelona players. That's the pedigree that Barcelona had. In terms of Spanish greats, they had all the Spanish, greats. They don't have that anymore. They don't have that sort of it factor to them anymore. And now it's a big blow that they can't sign Nico Williams, because Nico Williams would have given them an added element of verticality. I think would have been perfect with Hansi Flick. And now they're moving on Dani Olmo, who just doesn't fit the way Nico Williams would have done. Nico Williams would have been a plug and play. Now with Dani Olmo is a sort of player that you got to mix and match. You have to mix and match how you're going to play. You're going to have to, first of all, push back Frenkie de Jong deeper into midfield, because I don't think Dani Olmo is someone that Hansi Flick would like to play as a left-sided midfielder, game in, game out. Hansi Flick, he played with Coman and Sané. He wanted pace and verticality and people that are pressed with pace. And once they win the ball back, they had the ability to run in behind and get on the end of diagonal balls. Dani Olmo is an inverted winger, playing on the left-hand side, trying to cut into his right foot and being someone that can be a part of a great possession-oriented team, because he's a left winger that's not going to try to do all this verticality stuff. He's going to get the ball and he's going to keep the ball moving, and it's going to keep the possession with Barcelona. That's not what Hansi Flick generally would want to do. So I think Hansi Flick would play him more in an advanced midfield role, which will push back Frenkie de Jong. And to be honest, at this point, Frenkie de Jong has to be pushed back because they still don't have a replacement for Busquets. Again, Barcelona teams of the past, they would have got Rodri. They would have signed Rodri off Manchester City. Manchester City, you want treble? We don't care. We're Barcelona. We're going to take you, Rodri. And Rodri would have been allured by the greatness of Barcelona. And he would have, as a Spaniard, and he would have wanted them. That's just how it works. That's just what Barcelona has been. And they don't have that sort of nature to them anymore. They're not that Hollywood destination anymore. Yes, Gundogan went from City to Barcelona, but that's not as common as it was before. Everyone was lining up to go to Barcelona in the past. It's not like that right now. I'm telling you right now, Barcelona had an issue with 6. They would have got Rodri. They would have paid whatever was necessary, and they would have brought him in, and he would have been the focal point, and he would have been the next Busquets for them for 10-15 years. That's just what Barcelona would have done. But they don't have that sort of, number one, I don't think they have that pull anymore. Number two, they definitely don't have the financial capabilities to go out and just get the players that they want. And yeah, it's a big blow for Nico Williams, because I thought he would have fit Hansi Flick perfectly. I really did. And yeah, it's sad. Short break here coming up. When we come back though, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. break, we discussed how big of a blow is it for Barcelona now that they won't sign Nico Williams. We move on to react to some of the top soccer headlines, and it has to start off with the transfer news of Conor Gallagher. It has seemed that Chelsea and Atletico Madrid has agreed to a term on a deal for Conor Gallagher, as Conor Gallagher has rejected a new contract in Chelsea, and it seems like Gallagher is set to be interested in this move to Atletico. Gallagher turned down a 3-year contract extension, 2 years with an option of another year, to extend his Chelsea contract, and he turned down this offer in early June, a little bit before the European Championship. And now Gallagher is interested in the move to Atletico, and Chelsea are willing to make it happen, and they haven't agreed a deal with Atletico. It's set to be around $33 million pounds, according to sources, and Chelsea, they wanted to sell him. They reportedly wanted to sell him to a club outside of English football. So they actually took a lower bid than £45 million, which was actually discussed with Aston Villa earlier this summer, and it's said that Gallagher's interested, but it's still not sure if he's 100% willing to accept this move. But Chelsea are willing to sell him, and and Gallagher, he kind of open because he's kind of open to this position. He has flexibility because he is a free agent next year, so he could put himself in a position where he stays one last year at Chelsea and just leave on the free, and have the options of sort of all the clubs and have more ability to earn more money, because there's no transfer fee to worry about. But at the same time, I don't see how Gallagher, I don't think, I think if he wants to go, I think he's going to try to get out of there. And I think Gallagher to Atletico is actually a good move for him, because that's the sort of player Diego Simeone would love to have. He has just enough technical ability to be very valuable for Diego Simeone. He has that sort of work rate. He has the flexibility. He can play deep line playmaking positions. He can also play a little bit more attack-wise. He has the sort of ability to be good enough for Atletico midfielder. He has extreme work rate. He's gonna run his off for Simeone. He's gonna work hard for him. He also has that goal-scoring ability to himself, where he can get a goal here and there. He has that sort of nature to him. Has a long-range strike. I think, he's sort of a very similar player to Rodrigo de Paul. I really do. I think he's a similar player to the likes of Rodrigo de Paul. So I think that's a good move for Conor Gallagher and Atletico Madrid. For both, I think it's really good moves for both of them. Marcus Rashford, he actually exited United's friendly win. I just figured this out a little bit just now, actually. United could be facing potentially more injury issues when Ronaldo, he was forced off during their friendly against Betis, and he limped off into the tunnel 23 minutes following him being substituted in. Anthony, he also went off. No. So Rashford required treatment on the pitch, and he was limping as he walked off, and he had a straight down there. Anthony also had to go off just 23 minutes after he was introduced as a substitute. So both Anthony and Rashford suffered issues. That's really again more horrible news for Manchester United. It just seems like they can't get any sort of luck on their side. Former English men's national team manager Steve McLaren is leaving his role at Manchester United as the assistant coach to become head coach of the Jamaican men's national team. The JFF, the Jamaican Football Federation, has announced this Wednesday Steve McLaren is signing a 2-year contract, and his main priority or main task will be getting this team to qualify for a home Confederation World Cup. Like, they're not the home team, but it's going to be in their confederation with the USA, Mexico, Canada, in their region. And yeah, when speaking about this, he said, Steve McLaren, 63-year-old, said he was extremely proud and excited. I had no hesitation in accepting a position that is ideally suited to me at this stage of my career. Prior to returning to Manchester United for a second spell, I spent time at FIFA as a technical advisor on their global eco-analysis project. Jamaica was one of the teams I worked with, and I quickly came to realize the potential the country possesses. In the years since, that potential has grown significantly, and there is every reason to believe that with continued hard work and development, a bright future lies ahead. Ten Hag actually also came out with a statement following Steve McLaren's decision to leave, saying, I want to thank Steve for his tremendous services over the past 2 years. He has been an invaluable source of support and advice to me since I arrived in English football, helping us achieve 2 trophies while laying down foundations for further success. Steve and I have been friends for 16 years since we first worked together at FC Twente, and that relationship will continue as he embarks on the next challenge as well as bond with Manchester United. All of us at the club wish Steve the best of luck in his new role. McLaren also came out saying, I am delighted to have played my part in helping Eric deliver 2 trophies to the club, and for my final game to have been our FA Cup victory over Manchester City. There can be no better note on which to end. I have no doubt that the foundations that are in place at Manchester United will see the club challenging again soon for all the major trophies. When the Jamaican FA president, Michael Ricketts, also came out saying, we are truly elated to announce the appointment of Mr. McLaren as head coach of the Reggae Boys. We are confident we made the right decision, and we are looking forward to him guiding our nation towards the 2026 World Cup. That's, we'll see if that can end up being a good hire for the Jamaican Soccer Federation. I thought their previous hire of getting Haldorsen, the former Iceland coach, was a good hire for them. Was a sort of manager that got the team playing better than the sum of the parts. That didn't work out. We'll see about Steve McLaren. I think Jamaica has huge federation issues that are the main issues right now of the team. But Klopp, he has ruled out England and USMNT, and he actually hinted at retirement. He was linked with those 2 managerial jobs, but he said at the International Coaches Congress in Wurzburg, nothing at all. Job-wise, nothing at all. No club, no country. Some people must not have heard that part. When he was asked specifically about the England job, he said, that would be the biggest loss of face in the history of football. If I said, I'll make an exception for you. Klopp did say he wants to return to work, but after a break, but it was maybe not as the manager. He said, I will work at something. I'm too young to just play paddle and only spend time with my grandchildren. Will it be coaching again? I would actually rule that out at the moment. We'll see how things look in a few months. Right now, nothing is coming through. I really hope this break, really re-energizes Jurgen Klopp, and a breakaway gets him back to wanting to be a manager again, because I loved Jurgen Klopp as a manager. I loved watching his teams play. I loved watching his sideline sort of, not antics, but his demeanor, and club made me respect Liverpool, not just the way that they played, but just the emotional connection that he created with his fans. I think Klopp is, one of the best managers I've seen in my lifetime. So I really hope that this break, this hiatus, gets him back to wanting to be a manager again. And I hope he's able to come back in that capacity as being a manager and continue to play dominant football and lead his team. Whether it is for club football, international, it don't matter. Just I want him back managing. Hopefully we get that soon. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my